In 5th grade, a major skill students work on is reading and writing decimals. They do so in 3 different forms: word form, standard form, and expanded form. So we take students' prior knowledge about the place value system and we expand it into the decimal place values. So these are the 3 decimal place values that students will work on. We have tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Our decimal point is always after the ones place. So we include this ones place even though we know students are familiar with their whole number place value. We want to let them know that this is where the decimal point is and this is where the decimals start. Just like their whole number place value, every time you move to the right, you are getting a tenth smaller. Every time you move to the left, you are getting 10 times bigger. That is the same even with decimals. The first form we want to look at is we have standard and word form. So standard form is just how a number is written with numerals, no extra words, no extra symbols. So this right here, 0.8, would be standard form. 0.08, 0.008. This is standard form. This is how the number normally looks. Now, word form is only using words. I can include the number and then some words. It's strictly words. So if I look at this first standard form, I have 0.8. This is telling me I have 0 ones. Here's my decimal point, and then I have 8 tenths. When you put your decimals into word form, you take your number, so I have 8. Here's 8. Then I want to say the smallest place value. So I have the ones place and I have the tenths place. The ones is bigger than the tenths. So my smallest place value in this first example is tenths. That gives me 8 tenths as how I would say this number in words. Our second example, I have 0.08. Again, I have 0 ones, now I have 0 tenths, but I have 8 hundredths. So I would say 8. The smallest place value is hundredths. I would pronounce this by saying 8 hundredths. Our third example, I have 0.008, 0 ones, 0 tenths, 0 hundredths. Now I have 8 thousandths. Thousandths is the smallest place value, so I would write 8 thousandths. The next form is expanded form. So expanded form is a way to show the value of each digit of the number. So if we have this specific number, 34 and 56 hundredths, I want to break each number down to its specific value. So I have my parentheses to show me each place. My plus, because when we put them all together, we're going to get this number up here. So I have 3 times 10, which is telling me I have 3 groups of 10 in the tens place. 3 times 10 would give me my 30. Then I have 4 times 1, which means I have 4 groups of 1. I have 4 ones. So I have plus 4. So notice my 3 in the tens place is really 30. That matches my expanded form. 3 times 10 gives me 30. My 4 in the ones place tells me I have 4 ones. That matches my expanded form. 4 times 1, I have 4 ones. Now, this is when we get into our decimals. So I have, in my standard form, 5 tenths. This expanded form shows me 5 groups of tenths. 5 times 1/10 would give me 5 tenths. So 1/10 is how we would show our decimal as a fraction. It still means tenths. So I would have plus my 5 tenths. And then same thing with my hundredths. I have 6 hundredths in my standard form. In my expanded form, I have 6 groups of 1/100th. Again, if you think to your repeated addition, 1/100th plus 1/100th plus 1/100th 6 times, it's going to give us 6 hundredths. Then once I put all of this together, I'm going to end up with the same standard form that I have at the top. And again, to read a decimal in standard form, you have to name the place value of the smallest sized unit and tell how many of those units there are. So this example looks a little different than the previous ones because there are now 2 digits aside from my 0. So I have 0.073. I want to take my 7 and my 3 and put it together. So this is not 7 hundredths and 3 thousandths. I want to put the 7 and the 3 together to say 73. And then I want to name the least place value. So thousandths is the smallest place value. So for this, I would say I have 73 thousandths. I do not have to include my zeros that come before. Just put the 7 and the 3 together, 73 thousandths.